10 softer, sweeter songs that still count as pure psychedelic pop, and 10 stories about just how strange the process behind each one actually was. One of these songs was sung by a teenager who technically wasn't the singer everyone saw on the cover. One got its title from a total mishearing of a Beatles song. This is Inside the Pop, and this is the real history behind 10 softer classics that helped shape psychedelic pop. Number 10. Reflections. Diana Ross and the Supremes, 1967.
The way life used to be.
Motown's most polished, reliable hit-making machine took its biggest creative risk of the decade and almost buried the very single that became one of its most memorable records. By 1967, the Supremes had racked up hit after hit built on tight, 3-minute pop formulas. Behind the scenes, the group was under enormous personal strain, and their songwriting team decided to answer the psychedelic sounds coming out of San Francisco and London with something stranger than anything Motown had released before. Eerie oscillator tones borrowed from a studio engineer, simply tuning his equipment, swelling strings, and a chorus of flutes layered over the label's usual tight rhythm section.
Time after time, I see reflection.
One producer, who helped compile the label's own archival releases, later admitted the song, by all normal Motown logic, probably should have ended up unreleased in a vault rather than pressed as a single at all. It simply didn't follow any of the rules that had made the group famous.
Everywhere I turn, seems like
It became the first single credited specifically to Diana Ross and the Supremes, rather than the group as a whole. And despite breaking almost every one of Motown's usual formulas, it climbed all the way to number 2 on the American charts, kept out of the top spot only by Bobby Gentry's Ode to Billy Joe. Number 9, Judy in Disguise, with Glasses. John Fred and his Playboy Band, 1967. This number 1 hit exists entirely because its songwriter misheard a Beatles lyric.
Come to me tonight.
John Fred was listening to Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds and became convinced the title was actually Lucy in Disguise rather than Lucy in the Sky. He loved the phrase so much that he and his bandmate decided to write their own song based on what he'd misheard, deliberately parodying the psychedelic sound of the Beatles' original. By the time Fred realized his mistake and learned the real lyric, it was already too late to change course. He simply kept building the song around his own accidental title instead, filling it with intentionally nonsensical, dreamlike lyrics to match the joke.
Tonight. Come to me tonight.
The song shot to number 1 on the American charts in early 1968, in the process knocking a genuine Beatles single, Hello Goodbye, out of the top spot. John Lennon himself reportedly loved it, telling Fred the first thing he planned to do when he got home was write his own joke song about a frog in a pond wearing spectacles, a tribute of sorts to a hit built entirely on a mishearing. Number 8, The Rain, the Park, and Other Things, The Cowsills, 1967. This gentle sunshine pop classic almost got a title that made no sense at all, decided in under an hour under direct pressure from a record label president. The song, originally called The Flower Girl, was written specifically for the Cowsills, a real family band made up of several actual siblings, plus their own mother. Just before release, the label's president realized the title was too close to another song riding the charts at that exact moment, San Francisco, Be Sure to Wear Flowers in Your Hair, and demanded a brand new title within the hour so pressing could begin on schedule. The songwriter has said the replacement title came to him almost randomly, with no real explanation for why those particular words felt right together. Years later, he'd note with some amazement how the phrase ended up eerily foreshadowing both the Woodstock Festival he helped create shortly afterward and a personal loss in his own life. The song reached number 2 on the American charts, held out of the top spot only by the Monkees' Daydream Believer, and became a defining hit for a wholesome, real-life family band who would go on to directly inspire the concept behind television's The Partridge Family. Number 7. Waterloo Sunset, The Kinks, 1967.
Make me feel dizzy. Taxi ride.
One of the most beautiful, gently psychedelic pop songs of the entire decade came to its songwriter, by his own account, in a dream, and even he can't fully agree with himself on what it's actually about.
Waterloo sunset.
Ray Davies has given multiple, genuinely conflicting explanations over the years. In 1967, he suggested the two central characters in the song were a direct reference to two famous British actors who were secretly dating at the time. Decades later, in his own autobiography, he denied that entirely, instead describing the song as a fantasy about his own sister emigrating to build a new life on the other side of the world. He originally wrote the melody years earlier under a completely different working title, referencing an entirely different English city, only changing course after the Beatles released a song about that same city first, worried it would look like he was copying them. The song reached number 2 on the UK charts and never charted at all in America, yet it's gone on to be named one of the most beautiful songs in the English language by multiple critics. A hazy, contradictory, half-remembered dream that Davies himself still can't quite pin down the meaning of, even now. Number 6, For Your Love, The Yardbirds, 1965. This song became the Yardbirds' first major hit, and it directly drove one of the greatest guitarists in rock history straight out of the band. Songwriter Graham Gouldman wrote it for his own struggling band, who couldn't get it released at all. It eventually made its way to the Yardbirds instead, arranged with harpsichord and bongos rather than any real guitar solo. Deliberately built to sound more like sophisticated chamber pop than the gritty blues the band had built its reputation on. The band's own guitarist, a young Eric Clapton, hated the direction completely. He considered himself a blues purist and felt the song represented exactly the kind of calculated, commercial compromise he joined the band specifically to avoid. The band added a short instrumental bridge just to give him a moment to actually play guitar on the record, but it wasn't nearly enough to change his mind. The song became a top 10 hit in the UK, Canada, and the US, launching the Yardbirds into genuine stardom. And within weeks of its release, Clapton had quit the band entirely, setting off on the path that would eventually lead him through John Mayall's Bluesbreakers, then Cream, and years later to his own solo career entirely. Mid-break. We're halfway through, and the next 5 songs include a police force dedication that became an unofficial hippie anthem, and a song so accidentally successful it permanently changed the sound of an entire band forever. If you're enjoying this, hit subscribe, because there's a lot more where these came from. Number 5, San Franciscan Nights, Eric Burdon and the Animals, 1967. This song became one of the unofficial anthems of the entire hippie counterculture movement, despite being written, at least in part, as a genuine tribute to the local police force. Eric Burdon, the former lead singer of the British invasion band The Animals, had relocated to San Francisco during the height of the Summer of Love and became captivated by the city's counterculture scene. He opened the song with a spoken-word dedication praising San Francisco's police department for their comparatively gentle, understanding treatment of the young hippies flooding into the city. A genuinely unusual sentiment for a psychedelic rock record at the time.
When will they ever learn?
The rest of the song settled into a slow, dreamy tribute to the city itself, painting it as a kind of promised land for young people seeking something different from the rest of the country. It became a hit on both sides of the Atlantic, helping cement San Francisco's reputation as the spiritual capital of the entire psychedelic movement. A strange legacy for a song that opened by thanking the local police. Number 4, Bend Me, Shape Me, The American Breed. 1967. This fuzzy, horn-driven hit became the biggest song of an American band's career, using a song that had already failed to catch on once, for a completely different group, on the other side of the Atlantic. The song was written and originally recorded by British artists earlier that same year, without making much of a commercial impact. A Chicago-based band called The American Breed picked it up shortly after, giving it a punchier arrangement built around a distinctive, buzzing electric organ riff that made the track feel more urgent and danceable than the earlier version. Their version became an unexpected smash, climbing into the American top 5 and becoming the song the band would forever be identified with, far bigger than anything they released before or after. It stands as one of the clearest examples from the era of a song genuinely needing the right band to find its true audience, proof that a song's first version failing commercially doesn't mean the song itself was ever the problem. Number 3, Pictures of Matchstick Men, Status Quo, 1968. This trippy, phaser-drenched single became the only true psychedelic hit of a band's entire career. A band that would spend the next 5 decades playing straightforward, denim-clad boogie rock instead. Status Quo's guitarist Francis Rossi wrote the song during a period when the band, still finding their identity, were experimenting heavily with the same swirling studio effects and fuzzy guitar tones that defined the era's biggest psychedelic hits. The lyrics describe a narrator seeing visions of a hazy, sketch-like figure that may or may not really be there. It became the band's first and biggest American hit, reaching the top 20 on the Billboard chart. A genuine commercial breakthrough built entirely on a sound the band would almost completely abandon within just a couple of years. Status Quo went on to build an entire multi-decade career on stripped-down, straightforward rock and roll, rarely if ever returning to the phased, dreamlike production that gave them their first real hit, leaving this song as a strange, singular psychedelic footnote in an otherwise very different kind of career. Number 2. Time Has Come Today, The Chambers Brothers, 1968. This sprawling, hypnotic track was recorded years before it actually became a hit, and only found its audience after being cut down dramatically from its original, nearly 11-minute length. The Chambers Brothers, a black rock band blending gospel, soul, and psychedelia in a way almost nobody else was attempting at the time, recorded an early extended version of the song back in 1966. It sat largely unnoticed for 2 years, its most famous descending vocal cry and echoing cowbell effects too unconventional for most radio programmers to take a chance on. By 1968, a radically shortened single edit of the song, cut down to a more radio-friendly length, finally found an audience and climbed into the American top 20, years after the band had first put the original, sprawling version to tape. The full-length album version has since become just as celebrated as the single edit, regularly cited by critics as one of the boldest, most ahead-of-its-time psychedelic soul recordings of the entire decade. Number 1, Different Drum, The Stone Ponies featuring Linda Ronstadt, 1967. This gentle, harpsichord-laced pop hit introduced America to one of the most powerful voices of a generation, on a song she originally didn't even want to record. Linda Ronstadt was the lead singer of a modest folk trio called the Stone Ponies when her producer brought her this song, written by future Monkey Michael Nesmith. Ronstadt reportedly wasn't a fan of the arrangement at all, feeling the delicate Baroque pop production clashed with the song's more straightforward country folk roots, and has said she pushed back against the final version during the sessions. The label overruled her, keeping the ornate harpsichord and string arrangement in place, and released it as a single credited to the full group, despite Ronstadt being the only band member who actually performed on the finished track. It became a top 20 hit and launched Ronstadt as a solo artist almost overnight, setting her on the path toward becoming one of the best-selling and most influential female vocalists of the following decade. A career that began with a song its own eventual star didn't originally want any part of,